let's try to find some time. Maybe hit up a random Target or something. Look for some Target exclusives,
Yeah.
pops, and then grab dinner. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in again to Real Talk by Our Stories, Your Legacy, and welcome to a new episode of a fire round topic during the pandemic, right? And we're still in the pandemic again, like we said, regardless of your politics or anything going on in the news, until we feel like we're out in the clear overall, whatever that might be, whatever that might look like. Unfortunately, it seems like we're staying true to the pandemic. And for anyone who's listening to this as their first episode, we started this 2020 during the pandemic. We wanted to start a conversation about recording our having discussion with our friends and our family, recording how our lives have changed or how we're kind of going through the pandemic of COVID-19 that's affecting the world, and just kind of what's life like literally within the walls of us staying at home. And so yes, so welcome to another episode of Real Talk and Fire Round episodes. Basically, whatever is hot or trending during the week, or whatever just happened to pop in our minds, then usually gets us inspired to share our thoughts on them. And so today's episode, here's a little introduction. With streaming services being so much more prevalent in our lives, and access to incredible shows and movies are literally at the touch of our remote, we can explore and enjoy entertainment all from the comfort of our home now. The pandemic has increased this ability for us, more than ever. New movies that traditionally debut in movie theaters physically first are now simultaneously hitting streaming services for people to enjoy the debut without having to leave their homes. So, in this episode, we're going to do a nice, short, sweet discussion of how the pandemic has shifted for us to how we typically watch and access entertainment, and, our personal preference for going out to, for how we enjoy movies now, and how we typically view going out to a movie event now has changed. So as always, before we begin, we're going to do a quick check-in around the room, see who is with us today on this episode. And, as always, we always like to record this early in the week, so happy Monday to everyone. And so I'm going to start off with Zavon. How are you doing today, man?
Doing all right, man. Same shit. Another day. Just another Monday. So, but can't complain.
Another Monday. Yeah. Seems a little muggier today. If anything, kind of everyone's mood here kind of tends to reflect the weather, or vice versa, whatever the energy you believe in. Well, it's good to have you on, man. Always appreciate you. Tyler, how are you today?
Doing well. I think, yeah, it's one of those days, I think. Didn't mind the day as much. I think, yeah, the weather kind of played a part. You're starting to see a little bit of haze move into the air. So the air quality is slowly starting to kind of head towards that smoky fire season, which is always tough. So, because I have a sensitive nose and everything. So typically when that stuff comes in, I got to shut all the windows and all that stuff. And just hope I don't get anything too crazy in the house. We have one air purifier in here, but we might actually go pick up another one just to keep the air kind of cleanish in the house. Usually, you got to put it in the two places. They say you don't really need more than two in a house anyways. It's just the two places you spend the most time, typically your bedroom and then like your living area. So thought about doing that, going to pick up one of those this week before it gets too bad. And then all that stuff is sold out everywhere. So other than that, no, it's been pretty good. Feel like the day went by pretty quick.
Yeah. And then happy August to both of you. I mean, this first of the month of August, and yet it still, to me, it still feels like not a summertime yet. this joke never gets old, but it seems like we're still stuck in spring of 2020. For most cases, or as we've discussed in many episodes, just the pandemic, just this weird thing, just messed up our timeline, right, or our sense of time. Well, thanks, guys. Let's make it nice and fun. Let's jump right into it. All right. The first question, leave it up to either of you to jump in and start it off. So now, as I answer this question, even though we're more discussing movie specific, it doesn't have to be movie based. It could be sports events. It could be music events. That's another thing that I know I've been getting updates, emails for, like, live concert events, especially during early pandemic. We're going to like these, video only, live stream type of concerts, so it doesn't have to be that. So you could branch off and go on a tangent on that if you would like. But for the question, I'm going to mention specifically movies, since it's a lot of people tend to be having streaming services these days, right? So I'm going to leave it open-ended for either of you to jump in. So accessing or watching movies in general, it doesn't have to be new movies. It could be old movies, whatever. Would you prefer watching it in our timeline today of being in this pandemic? Would you rather watch it preferred in a physical theater or watching it from home, and why?
I think it really just depends on the genre of the movie, honestly. I feel like I would prefer to watch something that is more action oriented, a lot of big things happening in the movie in a theater, compared to my home. I know you said new or old. I feel like most things are only in theaters for like a month or two anyway. So,
right. Well, some theaters, sorry to cut in, but some theaters offer like, a chance to rewatch like a classic movie or something like that sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think, like, again, I still think it depends on the movie. I think if we're talking any sort of action type of movie, I'm going to go see that in a theater. I prefer to see that just because I think that's how most movies are meant to be viewed, to be fair. When directors are and producers are working on these movies, they're getting it ready for the big screen, So there's a lot of things that happen on the big screen that give more an effect to the viewer. And then even like the 3D stuff, but you can watch 3D at home, I guess, if you have a 3D TV, but stuff like that. I can't do 3D personally. I actually hate 3D. It just makes my eyes all weird. So, but yeah, no, I would definitely say like action type of movies would definitely be more theater bound for me. Whereas like, I don't know, if my friends are going, I guess I'll go watch like a rom-com or something, or something like that in a movie theater. But those are also movies that I don't mind waiting to just watch at home. And I know in today's like pandemic-ridden world and stuff that they offered streaming services on release of movies. So I know the big topic right now is Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson suing Disney essentially because in her contract it said they were only going to release it to theaters and not straight to Disney Plus, because at that point, she doesn't necessarily get a cut of the profits that come from Disney Plus. So whatever that, I don't know, it'll get resolved, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I'd rather go watch like Black Widow, for instance, in the theater than watching it on my TV, especially since it's actually cheaper to watch in the theater than to buy it on my TV and then not have that same surround sound type of rumbling feeling in my home,
Right. Yeah. How crazy is that, man? I mean, to debut it in the comfort of your home, is more. I feel like I mean, all right, there's pros and cons to each, you know, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
and this segues to the next question that I'll jump to you before we hear from Zavon. But you know, what is the positive and negative of either? You know, and so I'll ask you that. But it's crazy how to preface it is like, all right, typical streaming for a debut movie is $30, right? $30, and then you could have it for like what, up to a month maybe, or 2 months before it becomes free, quote unquote free, or included with your subscription. Like Disney, for example, I know like you could be the first to watch it for 2 months, and then like after 2 months, it becomes like widely available based on your subscription price. I like HBO Max does it a little differently. They preview it quote unquote for free with your subscription, but then it disappears after a month or so. So like there's all these different ways, but like paying $30 for a brand new debut movie is almost equivalent to going to the theaters with all the additional food and snacks on top of it. So I guess you can argue positive and pros for either one, but what's your thoughts? What's the positive and negative either? Staying home, paying $30 with your own food, or going out to the theaters?
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah, the pros and cons. I think doing it in your home, it's the comfort of your own home at that point. You could also have like 10 people at your house. So technically then it's only $3 a person if you're splitting the movie or something. Or, if there's 5 couples, $6 per couple kind of thing. So, I mean, that's kind of the pro there is I think people are expecting, or I don't know if they were expecting more people to jump in at like a house or like a family setting. So if you have a family of 4, family of 5, technically it's cheaper than to just buy it at your own home. Then you also have whatever snacks and stuff you have at home. Nice luxury that you have at home is that you can pause the movie if someone has to go to the bathroom. You don't have to try to sneak out, sprint down the hallway. Of course, you're in the farthest possible theater from the bathroom, so you don't want to miss anything. So you end up holding it, or you have to sprint to the other side of the building to go to the bathroom or something. So I guess that would be your plus. But if you're like a single person, or even just like maybe you and like your partner, going to a movie is technically cheaper at that point. Just if it's just the two of you going to the movie, if you don't have like a need for a beverage or any concession type of items like popcorn or any of that stuff, then it's fairly cheap. Just to go to the movie theater, and then you get that full experience of like surround sound. If you go watch it in the IMAX, maybe your chair rumbles when certain things happen, or the way I guess that most action type of movies are meant to be seen. So I guess that would be the biggest benefit of going to the theaters. You really get that experience of watching it in the theater. If you want things like popcorn and all that stuff, obviously that is also a bonus, because then you don't have to make it. You're paying for those services, and you get technically a free refill on your popcorn if you buy like a big tub or something. So, if you're sharing it, you obviously go back and get more. Plus, I don't know about y'all, but man, I love movie theater popcorn. It's so good.
It's hard to replicate, man. I
Yeah,
don't know what's in that butter.
yeah.
It doesn't even feel like butter when back. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in the theater, but I remember you could push the button and it's just like this yellow gasoline. I was going to say yellow gold, but it does not look like gold. It's like thick gasoline color coming out, Well, okay, gasoline's colorless, I guess, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
it's like a syrup almost.
Yeah, but it just, oh man, tastes so good.
It's good. It's good. It's probably the worst thing in the world for you in your arteries, but you know what? It's good. If it's not a super big habit, I guess, whatever. But yeah. So if you like popcorn and you don't need a drink with the popcorn or something, then still saving money in that regard. You still have to try to do stuff at home, and you have to make everything and all that stuff. I guess so. I would say those are my pros and cons, I guess, against everything. I mean, if you're well off and you have a nice like surround sound system in your house, then cool. I envy you, I suppose. I don't know. I guess it makes sense if you have all that stuff already at home. Then you don't really lose much there, and then you don't have to leave the house and all that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. Zavon, thoughts? Um, your preferred way to watch a movie, whether a debut or classic in any fashion, in the theater or the home or your home, and why?
I'm kind of on the same boat as Tyler. It really depends on the movie. Like if it was like a cheap comedy, I would most likely just stream it at home. But I would not pay like for a premiere access like how Disney's doing it with their latest movies like Black Widow. I think they even did it with Mulan, the live
Mm-hmm.
action, where it was like a over whopping like $29.99 sort of rip off. I'm like, I'm not paying $30 for a premiere access at home. I'd rather just go to the theater at that point. But it depends on the movie. And I love going to the movies, honestly. I'm not like an avid movie goer, like any movie that comes out, I'm gonna go. It really depends on the genre. Like I will go to the movies if it's like an actual like good movie, like Avengers or like Marvel movies that are highly anticipated and stuff. Like I will go to the theater for that, especially like on opening night. And I'm not an opening night or premiere kind of guy. I'm not a fan of crowds, but Marvel's like Avengers was definitely worth it and worth the hype. So I go to stuff like that. Um, but yeah, the theater experience is it's great too. Especially if you're surrounded with like the right crowd and it's like a hype movie, something like Endgame or Infinity War. Like it just, I had chills the night I watched the movie and just being in that kind of crowd and folks just cheering and laughing at the right time at the right parts and stuff. Uh, that is like some an experience like I'd say is not up to scale like a concert, but in terms of just like the hype and being with a crowd, it's kind of like a concert and the experience you gain. So, um, but yeah, I'm not as much as I'm not like a movie goer, an avid movie goer. I'm also not like an avid streamer either. It's just if I'm bored and I feel like the movie's decent, I'll watch it at home. But I don't go out of my way to like you know put things on my watch list and stuff. It's just it's like if I passively find something that seems interesting, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Man, you brought up a great point. Every time someone mentions it, especially I remember previous discussions. I remember you always tend to bring it up, Zavon, about just Endgame in theaters. Man, it always constantly gives me chills. Can you imagine? I'm not gonna spoil it for probably the one or two people who hasn't seen Endgame yet, but the scene that gives everyone chills, and most like theaters across the world cheered heavily on. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Um, can you imagine if Endgame premiered during the pandemic, and everyone's at home watching it because we're thick in the pandemic and couldn't watch it? Do you think it would still bring the amount of chills that we get knowing what we know? You know what I mean? Like everyone would probably get chills from the comfort of their home, but like to not know how everyone else is experiencing it. Like, do you feel like it would be much more chill? This is just kind of like a general question, but it's just like if you guys want to chime in, can you imagine how sad the world would be if not a lot of people experience that end game scene?
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a shared experience, is what it comes down to. It's just like if you talk about sports or concerts and everything. It's like every team, every band, musician has their fans, and you can cheer from home as much as you want, or like freak out. But that having that shared experience, it's kind of something special in that regard, because then you're also just around these people that have invested all of their time and some of their life in this thing as well. So it's kind of a cool feeling, because the scene we're talking about too. just like the fact that, people were like cheering and like super hyped, and then like chills and just everything. But on the flip side, also there was, very like hard scenes to watch where you could just feel the entire audience at that point, like their heart breaking and tears. You could hear the tears coming out of people's eyes at some points. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things. So it's not something that you can necessarily match. It's just like watching football from home. Like you can cheer, get upset, cry, and all that stuff at home. But I think when you're in a stadium and stuff, and you're viewing things with other people who've invested their time and their life into this stuff too, it's a shared experience, and you can't really have that taken away from you when you're there, because it's a pretty special, pretty cool experience. These people, you find that they're going through the same emotions and everything that you're going through at certain points, whether it be sports to TV show, movie, whatever it is. It's nice to see that investment from other people as well, because you're just like, I am not alone in this. And which, we say that a lot just in general, for people who like might be having, a hard time, or, whatever thoughts going through their head. It's like, you know what, you're not the only one out there. There's other people that are dealing with the same stuff. So it's one of those things. I don't know, just a special shared experience. I would say it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tyler. Zavon, continuing off your answer, what do you think is what do you think is a positive or negative of either? What's the pros and cons of each?
Well, it's like what Tyler said. It's a shared experience. Like, and like alluding to previous episodes where I've mentioned this, like the virtual and the remote experience, although it's convenient, how far can you go with that? Because it cannot replicate to like the highest degree that an in-person experience could, be. Like, would you rather watch a concert virtually, or would you rather watch it in person? Right. There's something so powerful with the human energy and the human stimuli when you're actually around people, whether if you're outgoing, constantly interacting with them and engaging with them or not. But even just to witness it, to just be around that kind of energy, that is a meaningful experience compared to being remote and, virtual and distant. So I would say that's like the biggest plus in terms of being in a crowd, like on a premiere with like a really well hyped and well anticipated film being played in the theater, versus at home, where it's like it could just be you or you and a couple of folks, but still not as powerful as it would be like in person. But again, it comes down to convenience, because not everyone can afford to, either not afford or prefer to like see it in theaters. Same thing like a sporting event, right? Some folks are just comfortable being at home and not having to worry about traffic and being surrounded by folks and worry about weaving in and out of like tight spaces, whether if that's in the crowd or in traffic, before and after the game, stuff like that. But, I still advocate for in-person stuff, like heavily, just because of that meaningful shared experience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, while you were talking, you brought up a great point about these live events and whatnot. Whether you want to see it in person or what's better, seeing it in person or watching it from a live stream. Of having that shared experience. It just kind of threw me on a tangent of recalling. I didn't see it, but I remember Fortnite, created that virtual concert with Travis Scott, where like you have your virtual Fortnite character attending this concert. And I don't play Fortnite too much, but You guys had like, what was your guys' take on that? Like, was it weird? Is it something that you know? Are we going to be like Ready Player one day and all go into a virtual body to attend all these things in the apocalyptic world? It's like that felt strange to me. I mean, that was foreign to me, but that was kind of like an interesting concept, right? That came out at a perfect moment or capitalized, right? I'm sure Fat in his pockets capitalized on a perfect moment. What was your guys' thoughts on something like that?
Well, yeah, I'm on the same boat. I thought it was an interesting concept. Like I thought it was cool to like have in a game for sure, especially when it was free. But it wasn't
Mhm.
something like I mean, I don't play Fortnite, but like I'm sure there are like millions of Fortnite players out there or Travis Scott fans in general who didn't take the time to even see it or even watch like a highlight online probably
Mhm.
because I think this like I kind of digress a little bit, but I think this also ties into like the virtual burnout, like any kind of program. I've seen it through like my work and just hearing it through the grapevine from other folks, and Tyler could probably attest to this too. It's like a lot of folks and organizations over the past year tried as best as they could to host programs virtually, and the number one complaint was we're not getting the numbers we want. They had such high expectations that they could replicate the same results and numbers virtually as they would if they were to host those programs and events in person, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But people were tapped out. People were not going out of their way to attend these programs, these events virtually because they were just done. They had, and that like is pretty much the holistic um, key point of this conversation is that it's not a shared meaningful experience, in-person experience. So that's very telling that folks were refusing to take time out of their day and schedule to attend these virtual programs and events. So something like Travis Scott, cool concept. I think it's cool what he did, but in terms of like the success for it, I mean, I don't know the metrics on that, but
Mhm.
it's definitely not something that would be as well promoted or uh, received if it were to be held in person. So, like a Travis Scott concert in person, hell yeah, sounds like a great time. Virtually,
Yeah.
even if it was free, it's like okay, yeah, I'm still like me personally, I wouldn't take time to like watch the entire concert, So even like virtual programs and events that even charged people to like
Mhm.
attend, so like you can imagine how many people um that steered away or how many people avoided participating in those things. So I don't know, man. It's tough to say. Yeah, it's all about convenience. I've been pondering. It's like, are we going more down the road because generation after generation and the current uh, world we live in, modern society we live in, like um, we're all about convenience. But how much convenience could we possibly get, and can we tolerate until we really crave that old, meaningful human interaction and experience? Right? Well, are we going down a deeper path of let's just keep it like let's just host as many virtual things and features as much as possible and hope it works out, or um, is there going to be a time where it's like people are going to promote like, hey, come to our in-person event, no virtual option, something like that. I know there's like a few movies that are coming out, like I think Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out in December, and it's in theaters only. So
Mhm.
yeah, and that's a movie I definitely want to see in person. I would not stream that at all. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Comes down
You
to preference, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. It always comes down to preference. I was laughing a little bit from what you were saying about convenience, which is a huge key. And I'm laughing because it reminded me of one of my favorite uh, comedy shows that I saw on Netflix. And I think this is his first big premiere on Netflix. Ronnie Chang. I think it's titled Angry Chinaman in America or something like that. I don't know. But he talks about how Americans are overly overly addicted to convenience, right? And how talking about Amazon, we're especially being in the U.S., we're blessed with Amazon Prime, that typically could be hours to maximum 2 days, typically, right? Generally, not typically, generally, shipping, right? And he's talking about how, you know, like we just hate that. Like Prime 2 day shipping is not convenient enough. We need Prime now. That's what he calls it. Where before I even push that I want an AI to tell me what I want before I want it. He's like, how ridiculous can convenience get and all that stuff, and it's hilarious. I mean, we're not sponsored by him, but I thought it was a really good insight to what you mentioned, Zavon, about our addiction to convenience. Right? It's like, you want something more and more, and it's like, how more can you want? It's like to the point that you want an AI to give you what you want prior to you even wanting to know what you want, right? So I thought that was pretty funny, and and that's going back to the topic. It's like, I mean, especially now, being in the pandemic, being stuck at home and more and all that stuff. Previously, it's like you start to learn about these convenience. Like, for example, for me, the app Instacart. I know that's been around for at least 5 years or more. I don't know. At its prime stage, I didn't discover it until like maybe 6 months ago or that. It's and or using like food delivery services like DoorDash, Uber Eats. It's like I knew these existed, but I never wanted to use them until recently, right? And then from we all start to develop this convenience, right, or this laziness, maybe, right? Whatever, to each their own. But it's interesting that all these convenient stuff is coming out to make human lives easier, for better or worse, right? But to kind of, if you guys, to wrap it up, our final question is dream scenario for both of you, right? Is what is your dream scenario? And this includes like if you prefer to having your own home theater, for example, right? With your own surround sound in a mansion or whatever. What would be your preferred scenario if you could have it your way and money is not an issue, right?
Preferred like
going out or like creating your own indoor theater, right?
I think I'd rather go to the theater.
Why?
Because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a waste of a space in your house. How often would that space get used?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, cool. You have you see that in like most people that walk around like expensive houses and stuff. It's like, we have our own movie theater. I'm like, okay, but how often do you use that theater?
Right.
So, I mean, it's a nice little like show off type of like toy, I guess you could say, like for people that maybe collect cars or something, like, but they don't drive them, they just keep them in like in the garage, in like a showcase type of garage. It's like, it goes back to the collections episode we had last week and stuff, like, do we need it kind of thing,
right?
Like cars are pretty cool to collect, that's cool, but like, like an extra room with a movie theater and stuff in your house, like, I don't know if that's just, excessive, I guess. I don't know. You could host parties and stuff, I suppose, but, at what point do you also have to clean and stuff?
Right,
So,
right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I feel like it's a little extra to have a movie theater in your house. I don't know.
if you have a movie theater in your house, you just hire a cleaning service crew to take it over.
No, that's true. That's
No,
true.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. For me, I feel like if that was a scenario, I think I'd rather have like a bowling alley or something in my house. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would be more fun, and would be a little bit more productive
yeah. Yeah.
to my well-being than having just a random movie theater in the house when you have another room that probably has a TV that's probably just as big. You know, whatever the size of random TVs are nowadays. I mean, there's places now that have their whole wall can be a TV, which is crazy, and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd rather almost set up an inflatable screen in the backyard and put a projector on it and just chill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. With your underground pool.
Yeah, the underground. Yeah.
Money's not an issue. Yeah, I mean, like, it brings up a good point. It's like I see your point of rather, to go out. What if, and this is all our personal opinions, right? Like we always put a disclaimer on. Like, what if you have a boring friends and family who just shares no same interests in, the type of movies you enjoy watching? You wouldn't have that shared experience like we're talking about with everyone else who enjoys that type of genre, right? Savant, what's your dream scenario if you had no, money was not an issue, and you could host the greatest theater at your own home, or do you still prefer wanting to go out to a already established theater?
Oh, well, I mean, it depends how great of a scale I can invest in terms of the theater. Because if I can go big, I would just like create my own like 16 screen like theater and like make profits that way. Be my own Zavon Cinemas, but kind of like Regal, but its own building and whatnot. But in terms of like home theater, like actual home theater, realistically, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I like movies, I like the experience, but I'd rather like invest in like a home gym or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For the space and money. Yeah, home theaters are cool. Again, it depends on the scale and the space. Like if I'm living like in a freaking like Russell Wilson type of mansion and I have the space for it, yeah, sure. I'll invite friends over for like a viewing party and whatnot. But yeah, I mean it's not like a huge like number one dream thing for me when like finding my dream home and stuff. Like I said, I'd rather have the space for a gym, like a full functional gym.
Yeah, I would rather have a bowling alley, 2 lanes of bowling alley. 2 other lanes outside of it are like underground swimming pool where some people can take a lap, but you want to avoid getting hit by a bowling ball while you're swimming. And then I'll have like in the corner of the room, like maybe like some weight sets. Just put it all in one, right? And why stop there? Just put like a big screen somewhere in the background. But there's so much more that you can do, right?
You're about to have like a round one type of situation in your house, bro.
Yeah.
Round one, Dave and Buster's type of stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, the other corner is like, like a mini gym. And then on the other corner is like a dance floor. Always. And if money's not an issue, there's like a constant DJ just like ready to play any music.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no. Yeah. Any final words? You guys have any final thoughts on this topic?
Enjoy the movies how you want to enjoy them. If you actually, we're not bashing on anyone who buys things and sits at home and it, whatever. If that's what you want to do and you just like sitting in your lazy boy recliner and watching that stuff or your couch or your bed, I don't know, then go for it. No shaming here. I prefer one way, and maybe, I don't know, maybe if I really got to a point where I just didn't want to leave the house because we have COVID-27 or something in the future, who knows? Maybe.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's way out of our timeline.
Yeah.
As far as life expectancy and stuff, but yeah, no, just enjoy it how you want to enjoy it.
Savant, final words, final thoughts.
No, that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks, man. My final thoughts, just kind of relay off what Tyler was just saying. I prefer to go to a movie theater, especially with if you go with a big group of friends and take up a whole row or whatever. I mean, especially nowadays during the pandemic, you could just rent out a theater space, which is awesome. But me being a minimalist person in my own house, I think it's way too expensive and way too tacky to own like a lazy boy chair. I'm not saying this is my personal preference. If you guys like those comfortable, leather couch that you could sink into, in your living room, do you? For me, I prefer minimalist, because I feel like with everything you buy, I want to be, utility about it, right? So I don't want to, if I buy a lounging chair, I feel like I have to consistently lounge to make the most out of it. But I think it's awesome to be able to go to a theater and lounge, and especially theaters now, they have those, those big lazy boy type of seats. Speaking of events though, music, I would rather go to a concert physically just to be able to feel the energy from the musician there. You can't replicate that through a screen. And just being able to like stand and jump and dance with it or sing along in person, it's a whole nother experience. Sports though, I will tell you this, and Tyler, who goes to a lot of sporting events a lot, will attest to this because he asks me all the time. I personally prefer to be at the comfort of my own home watching something, with my own beers and my own food. And if I get angry, I don't have to start a fight with someone who's next to me who's the opposite. And, it's just one of those things where like I, just be able to, I feel like to enjoy a sporting event that happens live and fast pace. Typically I could watch a rerun or rewind it back or whatever, and kind of enjoying that experience. But that's my personal preference when it comes to sports. But there are some sports that is better to be there. Like let's say you're in the playoffs. I haven't been to NFL game, NFL playoff game, but I've been to an MLS, soccer playoff game, and that is an incredible experience, especially if your team is winning. Right, it is an incredible experience. But anyways, I appreciate y'all being on. And I appreciate our viewers and listeners. And so we are ending it tonight on that high note. And so like always, as we're capping it off, I want to say, hey, take this dialogue, reflect it on your own life, keep the conversation going. It's summertime. Find a safe place to start a bonfire, with your friends and your family, and have this discussion over that fire with nice food, snacks, drinks, whatever of your likes, with over marshmallows and s'mores, right? Go out there and enjoy summer safely, but definitely enjoy it as we all try to do before, whatever happens. And so we appreciate y'all for listening. We're going to see y'all next week. We're going to end it right now. Have a good night. This is Our Stories, Your Legacy. Thank you for listening to another Real Talk. Have a good night.
Later.